The Galactic Senate roared with laughter, a sound so loud it echoed through the vast marble chambers of Zarnath Prime. Floating above the polished floors, holograms of Earth spun lazily, highlighting cities, forests, and oceans as if they were mere toys. This is the so-called Earth? The backwater planet, sneered Grand Marshal Voker, his deep blue skin shimmering under the council lights. No warp gates, no fleet signatures. They haven't even mastered intergalactic travel. The room burst into more laughter. For the mighty Galactic Empire, Earth was nothing more than a cosmic joke, a primitive world floating at the edge of the Orion Spur. But not everyone was laughing. In the shadows of the Senate Hall, Ambassador Relan sat silently, his four-fingered hand tapping a slow rhythm on the stone table. His species, the Aralis, were known for their heightened perception, able to sense things others couldn't. And something about Earth felt wrong. "We should be careful," Relan finally spoke, his voice cutting through the room's noise. "Planets that look defenseless often hide the sharpest blades." The Senate's laughter faded into murmurs. But Voker, with his broad shoulders and decorated armor, only chuckled. "Let me guess, Relan, another one of your gut feelings?" Relan didn't answer. Instead, his glowing yellow eyes locked onto the Earth hologram. "There's something there," he thought. "Something they don't want us to see." Cut to Earth, a seemingly ordinary day. In a small, secluded bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Jonathan Greaves stood before a vast screen, watching the same holographic image, Earth from above. But unlike the Galactic Senate, he wasn't laughing. "They're watching us," Greaves muttered, adjusting his crisp Navy uniform. His face, marked by years of command, remained unreadable, but his clenched jaw revealed the tension beneath. "Sir," a young officer called from the command console, "we're still cloaked. Their scanners haven't picked up anything." Greaves gave a slow nod. "Good. Keep it that way." His eyes drifted to another screen, this one showing a fleet of ships, unlike anything seen before. Sleek, black, and completely invisible to alien scans, they hovered silently in Earth's lower orbit. Each ship bore a single emblem, a silver eagle clutching a lightning bolt. "They think we're defenseless," Greaves whispered to himself, "but soon, they'll see." He turned to the officer. "Initiate Operation Ghost Fleet." The officer hesitated. "Sir? We haven't tested the fleet in real combat." "I said initiate it." "Yes, Admiral." The bunker filled with the hum of activation codes being input, lights flashing as Earth's hidden fleet, a secret built over decades, began to stir. Above them, in the silent darkness of space, Earth's ghost fleet shimmered for a brief second, then vanished entirely, leaving no trace behind. Back at the Galactic Senate, a low alarm echoed through the chambers. "What's that?" Voker barked, spinning toward his tech officers. One of them, pale and trembling, stammered, something just moved near Earth. "But it's invisible to our scans." Relan's eyes widened. "I told you. They're not what they seem." Voker's smug expression faltered for the first time. Earth, this primitive, laughable planet, had just vanished from their scanners, leaving behind nothing but the chilling uncertainty of the unknown. The vastness of space stretched endlessly, silent and cold. But near Earth's orbit, something moved, silent, unseen, and deadly. The Ghost Fleet hovered in formation, cloaked in cutting-edge stealth technology, their jagged silhouettes barely visible against the black canvas of space. These ships, humanity's most guarded secret, had been built in hidden shipyards deep beneath the Earth's oceans and inside hollowed-out asteroids. The project had been in motion for decades, waiting for this very moment. Inside the lead ship, USS Valiant, Admiral Jonathan Greaves stood on the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back. Large panoramic windows revealed nothing but the starry expanse, yet he knew the enemy was watching, waiting. "Status report," Greaves commanded, his voice cutting through the tense silence. "All ships are in position, Admiral. Cloaking system stable. No enemy scans have penetrated our shields," replied Commander Elena Vasquez, her sharp features tense but focused. Greaves nodded. "Good. Let's see how long their arrogance holds." A holographic display flickered to life in front of him, revealing a dozen Galactic Empire dreadnoughts in orbit, each the size of a small moon. Their angular hulls shimmered under distant starlight, bristling with weapons powerful enough to shatter planets. "They're setting up a blockade," Vasquez noted grimly. Greaves gave a bitter chuckle. "They think they're the hunters. They have no idea they're walking into a trap." Aboard the Empire's flagship, the Dominion. Grand Marshal Volker paced across his command deck, his armored boots echoing against the metallic floor. The image of Earth still floated before him, though something about it seemed off. "Why can't we see them?" Volker growled, slamming his fist against the console. "Scan every molecule of that planet. I want answers." His chief scientist, a slender figure with silver tendrils protruding from his head, trembled. "Marshal, our scans detect no active defenses. No energy readings. It's as if it's empty." Volker's crimson eyes narrowed. "It's a trick. No species that advanced hides this well without reason." Ambassador Relan, still lingering at the back of the room, stepped forward. "We should pull back. There's something about this planet, something we don't understand." Volker sneered. "Cowardice doesn't suit you, Relan. We are the Empire. We don't run." But even as he spoke, a faint flicker appeared on their sensors, a ghost signal, just for a second. "Wait, did you see that?" one of the technicians called out. Relan's heart raced. "It's them. They're here. Watching us." Back on the USS Valiant. Greaves smirked as he watched the enemy scramble. "They're starting to notice," Vasquez said, eyes locked on the tactical screen. "Exactly as planned," Greaves replied. "But not enough. I want them nervous, second-guessing every move." He turned to his communications officer. "Patch me through to the fleet." A series of green lights flickered as every captain across the Ghost Fleet tuned in. "This is Admiral Greaves," his voice echoed across the comms. "The time for hiding is over. For too long, we've been underestimated, laughed at. Today, that changes. We don't fire unless fired upon. But if they attack," he paused, letting the weight of his words settle. "We show them what humanity is capable of." A chorus of "Aye, sir," echoed back. The tension breaks. Suddenly, an Empire scout ship broke formation, its sleek form darting toward Earth's orbit. "Admiral, they're sending a probe," Vasquez called out. Greaves clenched his jaw. "Let it come closer. Let them think they've found something." The probe zipped past Earth's upper atmosphere, scanning every layer, but then, its systems began to flicker. Static filled its transmissions before, in a flash of blue energy, it imploded, gone without a trace. Aboard the Dominion. Volker's eyes widened as the signal vanished. What just happened?" Relan stepped forward, his voice low and filled with dread. "They took it out without leaving a trace. No energy signature. No debris. They're more advanced than we imagined." For the first time, Volker's confidence wavered. "Prepare all ships for high alert," he barked. "I want every cannon trained on that planet." But deep down, he knew, they were being watched. Final moments of Part 2. Admiral Greaves stood silent on the bridge, staring at the void where the Empire's fleet loomed. "They'll make their move soon," Vasquez said. Greaves nodded. "And when they do, we'll be ready." But even he couldn't shake the chill running down his spine. This was only the beginning. Humanity's greatest secret was about to be unveiled. The silence of space was a deafening void, an invisible battlefield where one wrong move could end civilizations. Earth spun quietly beneath the standoff, a blue gem in the dark, but above it, war was brewing. Aboard the USS Valiant, Admiral Greaves studied the enemy fleet, his jaw set in stone. Every decision from this moment would define humanity's fate. "Admiral, incoming transmission from the Empire's flagship," Vasquez reported, her fingers dancing over the controls. Greaves raised an eyebrow. "Put it through." A crackling hologram materialized, a towering figure with crimson skin, clad in obsidian armor, Grand Marshal Volker. His eyes glowed with a predatory intensity. "Human," Volker sneered, "your planet is under the authority of the Galactic Empire. Stand down and surrender. You've shown cleverness, but it's over." Greaves remained stoic. "Funny. I was about to tell you the same." A tense pause filled the air. Volker leaned in, eyes narrowing. "You think hiding makes you powerful? We've conquered species far beyond your kind." Greaves' lips curled into a subtle smirk. "But none like us." With a subtle nod to Vasquez, the cloaking field around the Ghost Fleet flickered, and then vanished, revealing an armada of Earth's finest warships, bristling with weapons unseen by alien eyes. Empire's flagship, the Dominion. Chaos erupted. "Sir!" Multiple human vessels decloaking. "They were right under us the entire time," a panicked officer shouted. Volker's composure cracked. "Impossible. That level of stealth, how?" Relan, standing at the side, whispered, "They've been preparing for this, longer than we realized." But before Volker could respond, a massive energy surge lit up the battlefield. The first strike. One of the human vessels, USS Aegis, fired first, not at the Empire ships, but at a nearby asteroid. The explosion revealed a hidden orbital defense grid, dozens of satellite cannons that immediately locked onto the alien fleet. Blue beams of energy lanced through the void, striking precise targets. Empire ships flared under the assault, their shields straining. Greaves' voice echoed across the human fleet, "Fire only when necessary. But let them know, we're not prey." The balance had shifted. Humanity wasn't the hunted anymore. Volker's fury. Volker bared his fangs. "Enough games. Wipe them out." Empire ships responded, firing plasma bolts the size of skyscrapers. The void filled with streaks of energy, war had begun. But Earth's forces weren't caught off guard. Human ships weaved through the chaos with unearthly precision, their AI-controlled systems predicting enemy moves before they happened. "Admiral, the Ghost Fleet's evasive algorithms are outperforming projections," Vasquez reported, awe in her voice. Greaves didn't break focus. "I told them, never underestimate humanity's will to survive." A surprise ally. As the battle raged, a new signal pinged the Valiant scanners. "Admiral, an unknown vessel is approaching, fast," Vasquez warned. Greaves frowned. "Friend or foe?" Before she could answer, a sleek ship, ancient yet advanced, pierced through the battlefield, positioning itself between Earth and the Empire's fleet. It broadcasted a universal signal. A hologram flickered to life on the Valiant's bridge. A humanoid figure appeared, tall, robed, with glowing eyes. "I am Aaron of the Vela. Humanity's survival has been of great interest to us." Greaves' heart raced. The Vela, a species whispered about in myths, observers of galactic conflicts, but never participants. "Why reveal yourselves now?" Greaves asked cautiously. Aaron's gaze was somber. "Because if Earth falls today, the balance of the galaxy tips into darkness." The turning point. With the Vela ship now aiding Earth's forces, the Empire faltered. Their plasma beams deflected harmlessly against Vela shields, while the human fleet pressed forward with renewed vigor. On board the Dominion, Volker slammed his fists into the control panel, sparks flying. "We are the Empire. We do not lose to insects." But Reland's face twisted with fear. "We've awakened something ancient, Marshal. They were never alone." Volker's pride dissolved into raw panic as another Vela vessel decloaked behind his ship. Final moments of Part 3. Admiral Greaves stood at the front of the bridge, staring at the battlefield that had shifted in humanity's favor. "We're not out of this yet," he said quietly. "But for the first time, we have a chance." In the distance, Earth glowed, untouched, a symbol of humanity's resilience. But the war was far from over. And the greatest secrets were still buried, waiting to be revealed. The once pristine void of space was now littered with debris. Twisted metal from destroyed ships drifted between the opposing fleets. But even as Earth's defenders rallied, an unseen danger loomed within. Aboard the USS Valiant, Admiral Greaves gripped the railing of the command deck, his eyes fixed on the distant Empire flagship. The unexpected arrival of the Vela had turned the tide, but experience had taught him, victory was never that simple. "Damage report," he barked. Vasquez's fingers flew over the console. "Minimal on our end. The Empire's fleet has lost 40% of their ships, but they're regrouping behind their dreadnoughts." Greaves nodded. "They're stalling. They know reinforcements are coming." But before he could issue another command, the Vela emissary, Aaron, appeared on the bridge in a shimmering projection. "Admiral, the Empire is deploying a contingency plan, one not bound by honor." Greaves frowned. "What do you mean?" Aaron's glowing eyes dimmed. "There's a traitor among your ranks. Someone who's been guiding the Empire's hand." The bridge fell silent. "That's impossible," Vasquez whispered. But Greaves knew better. In war, betrayal was a weapon deadlier than any ship. Aboard the Empire flagship, Dominion, Grand Marshal Volker paced furiously, tendrils of smoke swirling from damaged consoles. The Vela's unexpected alliance had turned his victory into chaos. "They were supposed to be alone," he growled. Relan, his chief strategist, remained eerily calm. "They nearly were, but the Vela have long watched them. We should have anticipated their interference." Volker slammed his clawed fist into the control panel. "I'll burn their world to ash if I have to." But then Relan's lips curled into a sinister smirk. "Perhaps, there's still a way. Our contact is in place." Volker's head snapped around. "You're certain they'll act?" Relan's eyes gleamed. "They have no choice." The traitor revealed. Back on the Valiant, Vasquez moved to recalibrate the fleet's defensive grid when a hidden alert flashed on her console, "Unauthorized data transfer detected." "Admiral, someone's leaking our fleet movements," she shouted. Greaves' heart sank. "Find the source, now." But before she could trace it, the lights flickered. A pulse of energy surged through the bridge, knocking out the main systems. In the eerie silence, a voice crackled over the emergency channel. "I didn't want it to come to this." All eyes turned toward Lieutenant Commander Holt, standing by the secondary console, a plasma pistol in his trembling hands. "Holt?" Vasquez gasped. Holt's face was pale, tears welling in his eyes. "They have my family. I didn't have a choice." Greaves took a cautious step forward. "Son, you always have a choice." But Holt shook his head violently. "They said they'd kill them if I didn't help guide their fleet past our defenses. I thought I could stop them in time, but now." Suddenly, a surge of red warning lights flared on the auxiliary screens. Empire ships had slipped past Earth's defensive grid, heading straight for the planet. "Holt! Shut it down!" Greaves roared. But Holt's console had been locked remotely, by the Empire. A desperate gambit. Vasquez scrambled to reroute control to the Vela ship. "Admiral, if Aaron can intercept the Empire's infiltration team, we might still have a chance." Greaves activated the comms. "Aaron, do you read? We need you to." But Aaron's voice interrupted. "Admiral, there is another way. I can sever the Empire's command link to their ships, but doing so will reveal the Vela to the wider galaxy. We have remained hidden for eons." Greaves hesitated. "You'd be painting a target on your backs." Aaron's voice grew somber. "But Earth must endure. Humanity's survival is necessary for what's to come." Greaves clenched his jaw. "Then do it." The turning point. Within moments, the Vela ship emitted a blinding pulse, an energy wave that rippled across space, severing the Empire's command links. Their ships faltered, weapons offline, caught in disarray. But the cost was immediate. Empire reinforcements, scattered across the galaxy, now had a new priority: the Vela. Holt's redemption. Back on the Valiant, Holt dropped his weapon, tears streaming down his face. I didn't mean for this," he whispered. Greaves placed a firm hand on his shoulder. "It's not over yet. You can still help us fix this." Holt nodded, regaining some composure. "I know a backdoor into the Empire's comm systems. I can shut down their infiltration team heading for Earth." Vasquez worked furiously alongside him, bypassing the encrypted layers. Moments later, Holt found the sequence. "There. I'm rerouting their strike team into an asteroid field." Greaves watched as the enemy dots on the tactical map veered off course, their fates sealed. The calm before the storm. The battlefield had quieted, for now. The Empire's fleet was in shambles, and Earth remained intact. But Greaves knew this was only a temporary victory. He stood at the bridge window, staring at the void beyond. "This was never just about Earth," he murmured. Vasquez approached. "Then what's it about?" Greaves' gaze hardened. "Something far bigger. And we just became the front line." The silence on the bridge of the USS Valiant felt oppressive. The crew moved with a sense of cautious hope, but the storm was far from over. Earth had survived its first major battle, but Greaves knew this was just the beginning. As they navigated the debris of the battlefield, the sky still darkened with the remnants of war, and his thoughts were on the message from the Vela: the alliance they'd formed might not be enough. There was something more lurking in the shadows. Aboard the Dominion. Grand Marshal Volker stood at the command center, his claws tracing the map of Earth's defenses. The tide had turned, but he had no intention of giving up. He had one last weapon up his sleeve, one that would either cripple Earth's resistance or, if things went wrong, cost him everything. Relan, ever the calm strategist, looked at him with calculating eyes. "They won't see it coming." Volker's lips curled into a smile. "No, they won't. And when the Vela are out of the picture, we'll take Earth ourselves." But even as he spoke, something shifted. Relan's gaze lingered on a screen that wasn't showing the battle map. There, for a brief moment, a shadow passed across the display, a signal he hadn't anticipated. "What is this?" Volker's voice hardened. Relan blinked, his expression changing. It's a backdoor. Someone else is making moves within our ranks." Volker's eyes narrowed. "Who?" Relan's voice became cold, his mind working quickly through the possibilities. "The traitor, he's still alive. Aboard the Valiant, the conspiracy unveils." Greaves paced the length of the bridge, his mind racing. Despite the victory, there was something gnawing at him, a feeling that couldn't be shaken. Vasquez had managed to track Holt's data leak back to a hidden, encrypted channel, and it had led them to a shocking discovery. "Admiral, I found something." Holt wasn't the only one working with the Empire, Vasquez said, her voice tight with urgency. Greaves stopped in his tracks. What are you saying? Vasquez turned her console toward him. There's another signal. Another member of our fleet, a high-ranking officer. And this one is directly tied to the Empire. Greaves felt the blood drain from his face. Who? Vasquez's fingers trembled as she typed. The screen flickered, and the name appeared. Commander Lydia Moore. The face of betrayal. Lydia Moore. The name struck like a hammer to his chest. Greaves had trusted her implicitly. She had been his right hand, the one officer he had relied on through thick and thin. How had she been so skilled at hiding her true intentions? How could she betray them all? But Vasquez wasn't finished. I've found more. Moore's family, they've been living under Empire protection for years. The entire family is tied to the very people who want us destroyed. Greaves' mind swirled. She's been playing us, for years. Vasquez nodded grimly. And now the Empire's moving to exploit her position. Moore is heading straight for the control room. She's trying to send them our fleet coordinates. Greaves' heart hammered in his chest. If Moore succeeded, it could spell the end of the resistance. The Vela would be exposed, Earth's fleet would be annihilated, and humanity would be left to fall. The final countdown. Greaves didn't hesitate. Get me Moore, now. The security team was dispatched immediately, but as the minutes ticked away, the tension on the bridge grew unbearable. The stakes had shifted. No longer was this a battle between armies, it was a war of trust, a war for the soul of humanity. As the countdown to the enemy's reinforcements loomed, Greaves knew they had one chance to stop Moore. But there was no room for mistakes. A desperate pursuit. The sound of boots echoed down the darkened corridors of the Valiant as Greaves and Vasquez led the charge. We're losing time, Vasquez said, her breath coming in short bursts. Greaves could feel the urgency in her voice. Moore was good. Too good. And she had been a part of their fleet for so long that it felt impossible to consider her as a threat. But the evidence was clear. They reached the control room in a blur of motion, but when the door slid open, the scene that greeted them was not what they had expected. Commander Moore was standing in front of the main console, her fingers hovering over the controls. But her expression was not one of betrayal. Instead, she was staring at the screen, her face pale and stricken. I can't do this, she whispered, more to herself than anyone else. Greaves stepped forward, his voice low and steady. Lydia. She didn't turn to face him, but her hands dropped from the console. I never wanted this, she said, her voice shaking. But my family, they're all in danger. I had no choice. Greaves' heart clenched. You always have a choice. What are you trying to do? She finally turned, and the pain in her eyes was unmistakable. I was supposed to send the coordinates to the Empire. But when I saw what they planned, I knew I couldn't. A breathless pause hung in the air. The truth was slowly surfacing, and Greaves understood. She had been forced into a corner, just like Holt. She had made the same mistake, but she was redeeming herself now. Greaves took a step closer. We can stop this. Together. The battle for redemption. Moore hesitated, then turned back to the console. With trembling hands, she typed in the final sequence, the one that would disarm the Empire's attack, but also expose her as a traitor. It was a risk, but it was the only way. I'll do it, she whispered. In the next few moments, the Valiant's tactical screens updated, the fleet's coordinates no longer exposed. The Empire's strike team began to fall into disarray, as if they had lost their guiding light. We're free, Vasquez said quietly, her eyes scanning the updates. The Valiant raced through the dark void of space, the hum of its engines the only sound on the bridge. The crew was tense, aware that the countdown was ticking down. Every moment brought them closer to the final confrontation. The battle with the Empire was no longer a question of strategy, it was about survival, redemption, and reclaiming humanity's future. Greaves stood before the viewport, staring into the abyss. The sky, once full of stars, was now just a blanket of void, thick with uncertainty. But despite the darkness, something was different. They had a chance. Mor had redeemed herself. The fleet was no longer fractured, and the Vela, those ancient allies, had promised their support. Earth wasn't alone anymore. Yet there was still one more thing that Greaves feared. The Empire's true weapon was yet to be revealed, and it was one they couldn't underestimate. A last-minute revelation. The silence on the bridge was deafening as Vasquez approached Greaves, holding a data pad. Her face was pale, and her fingers trembled as she handed it to him. "Admiral, you need to see this." Greaves took the pad, his eyes scanning the information. "What is it?" The data was chilling. The Empire wasn't relying on brute force alone, they had a secret weapon, something more dangerous than any of their fleets, a weapon that could shatter the entire resistance in a single strike. "It's called the Vortex," Vasquez said, her voice tight with fear. "A gravity weapon that can distort space itself. If they fire it at Earth, they'll tear the planet apart." Greaves' heart sank. "How much time do we have?" Vasquez swallowed. "The vortex is being activated as we speak. We have less than an hour before it's operational." The countdown had begun. This was it, the final hour. The fate of the Earth and its allies rested on their ability to stop this weapon before it could be fired. The final assault. The Valiant surged forward, its crew working in tandem to prepare for the final assault. Greaves knew this would be the hardest battle they'd ever fought, and not all of them would make it through. But they couldn't turn back now. "Deploy all fighters," Greaves commanded, his voice unwavering. "Target the vortex and prepare for a direct assault. We've got one shot at this, people." The tension was palpable as the crew scrambled to execute their orders. The entire fleet, Earth's last line of defense, was ready to make a stand. The Vela's ships, sleek and efficient, took their places alongside Earth's forces, their energy shields primed and ready. The battle lines had been drawn. Greaves watched as the enemy fleet came into view, the vortex weapon now clearly visible in the distance, suspended in space, its ominous shape looming over them like a specter of death. "This is it," Greaves muttered to himself. He turned to Mor, who stood beside him. "Ready?" She nodded, her eyes filled with determination. "Let's end this." The clash of titans. The battle that followed was a chaotic whirlwind of explosions, gunfire, and desperate maneuvering. The Empire's ships were formidable, but Earth's fleet was fueled by more than just military strategy. They were fighting for survival, for their planet, for the future. The Vela, though fewer in number, fought with an elegance and power that stunned their enemies. Greaves watched as the enemy ships fell one by one, but his focus remained on the vortex. It had to be stopped. They were close now, within firing range, but the vortex was heavily guarded by the Empire's elite forces. The tension was unbearable as Greaves barked orders, leading his crew through the labyrinth of enemy ships. "All fighters, target the vortex's core. We need to disable it before they fire." The battle raged on. Explosions lit up the void like stars in the night, as Earth's fighters dove and swerved to avoid enemy fire. Greaves' heart raced in time with the countdown to the weapon's activation. The vortex was a monstrous thing, designed to harness and manipulate gravitational forces, but it was also fragile, vulnerable in its core. Greaves saw his opening. "Vasquez, now." With a single command, the fleet's fighters swarmed the vortex, their blasters cutting through the enemy defenses. A fierce exchange of fire erupted as Greaves piloted the Valiant directly toward the vortex, its shields blazing as they collided with the Empire's final line of defense. The ultimate sacrifice. Just as it seemed they might succeed, disaster struck. A blast from an enemy cruiser slammed into the Valiant, sending the ship into a tailspin. Greaves gritted his teeth, steering the ship back on course. He could see the core of the vortex now, exposed and vulnerable, but they were running out of time. "We're losing power," Vasquez shouted, her voice strained. "The Valiant can't take another hit." Greaves' heart thundered. He knew they didn't have much time left. There was only one choice. "Commander Moore, take the helm." Moore looked at him, her expression unreadable. "Are you sure?" Greaves nodded. "It's the only way. We finish this together." As Moore took the helm, Greaves turned to Vasquez. "Prepare the vortex disruptor. We're going to need it." With a deep breath, Greaves turned back to the viewport, watching as the enemy fleet advanced. They had one shot. "For Earth," he whispered, more to himself than anyone else. The battle for Earth was over. The remnants of the Empire's once feared fleet floated in space, crippled and defeated. The vortex weapon was no longer a threat, but the cost of victory was clear. The Valiant, though still intact, had taken heavy damage during the final assault. It now drifted in the emptiness of space, its once pristine hull marked with scorch marks and dents, a testament to the sacrifice made by Greaves and his crew. As Greaves stood on the bridge, staring out at the broken enemy ships and the distant, peaceful blue planet below, he felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. They had saved Earth, but at what cost? The aftermath of the war. The fleet had scattered, its crew members either heading home to their families or preparing for the next phase of rebuilding. Greaves stood before the command center, overseeing the damage reports. Moore, Vasquez, and the rest of the crew had all fought valiantly, but some of them wouldn't be returning. Their names would be etched into the history books of Earth, forever remembered for their courage and sacrifice. Moore approached, her expression somber but resolute. "Admiral, the fleet is ready to head back to Earth. We've done it, we've saved our people." Greaves nodded slowly, the weight of their success settling on him. "We did. But there's more to this war than just victory. Healing and rebuilding." The first priority was to rebuild, both physically and emotionally. The survivors returned to Earth, and the fleet made its way back to the safety of the home world. Greaves knew that the wounds of war ran deep, but they had the opportunity to heal, if they could embrace the future with the same determination they had shown in battle. Vasquez, her normally confident demeanor tempered by the losses, addressed the crew in a somber speech, acknowledging the sacrifices made by their fallen comrades. They didn't just fight for Earth, they fought for humanity. And it's our responsibility to ensure their legacy lives on. The crew nodded, a shared understanding passing between them. This wasn't just about one war, it was about the future of humanity. The Empire had thought Earth weak, an insignificant speck in the galaxy, but they had been wrong. The people of Earth had risen to the challenge, showing the universe that no matter how small or insignificant one might seem, there is always strength in unity. The legacy of humanity. As the fleet entered Earth's orbit, Greaves stood on the bridge once more, staring out at the planet below. The scars of war were still visible, but there was a feeling of hope in the air. Earth had won, but the true victory would be in how they rebuilt, how they honored the memory of those who had fallen. Moore joined him at the viewport, her eyes reflecting the same thoughts. "What now, Admiral?" she asked, her voice quieter than usual. Greaves turned to her, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "Now, we build a future. We learn from the past and work towards something better. Our victory wasn't just a matter of defeating the Empire. It was about proving that humanity has something worth fighting for. And we won't let anyone forget that." A meaningful life lesson. As the Valiant made its way toward Earth, Greaves reflected on everything they had endured. The battle for survival was over, but the lessons they had learned along the way were just beginning to take root. The war had shown him something important, something that would guide him for the rest of his life. Never underestimate the power of the human spirit, he thought. The Empire had believed they were unbeatable, that Earth was nothing more than a pawn in the grand chess game of the galaxy. But Earth had proven them wrong, not through force alone, but through unity, sacrifice, and determination. Humanity was resilient. It had faced adversity time and time again, always rising from the ashes, always moving forward. The people of Earth weren't just survivors, they were warriors. And the universe would know their strength from now on. As the Valiant descended toward Earth's surface, Greaves knew that they had only just begun to rebuild. The galaxy had seen what Earth could do when pushed to the brink. And while the scars of war would remain, there was no going back now. Earth had found its place in the cosmos.